Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Event Industry News podcast with me, James Dickson, wishing you all a very good morning, afternoon or evening, whenever or wherever you tune into today's podcast from. And in terms of where you're tuning into today's podcast from, it's more a case of where we are recording today's podcast from. I am in the beautiful surroundings of the Hilton Birmingham Metropole, adjacent, of course, to the NEC in the heart of England. And we've been afforded this brilliant opportunity today to come down and record some episodes of the podcast to celebrate the 50th anniversary of this, I suppose, institution of the UK events industry. We're going to be recording 3 episodes of the podcast here today, talking to various people who are involved in the running and the operation of the events here, finding out a little bit about the history of the venue if you're not familiar with it, and I think most people in the events industry will be. So it's a huge thank you to all the people sort of behind the scenes here for setting up and giving us an invite here at Event Industry News to come down and record some of the podcast today. Kicking things off, I'm delighted to say that I am joined in this sort of sumptuous booth. I feel like
Cozy.
Relaxing, yes, by Simon Jelley. Simon is from Protec, fully on brand today.
Yeah,
and Simon is the National Sales and Account Manager for Protec, and is very much based. Well, first of all, welcome to the podcast, Simon.
Thank you, James. Glad to be here.
And you are based here, have a base here. What's the sort of the setup with Protec, first of all?
Okay. Yes, well, Protec has a big warehouse and headquarters on site at the NEC, so literally a stone's throw from here. It's obviously very handy for supporting all the events we do in the building. I personally am the account manager for the hotels. He's one of my biggest clients, and myself and my colleague David have an office in the hotel here with the sales team in the hotel staff offices.
And for anybody who's not been to this venue before, the first thing I remember coming here for the first time, you don't realise sort of how big a place it is physically as a building. It's a big old space, isn't it?
It is. She is a big old beast, the Met, yeah. And I think, as you said in your intro, most people in the events industry know her. Everyone's been here at some time or another for an event. And the Birmingham Met is very well known. It is a big hotel, and there are a lot of spaces, which obviously from an event production point of view is great. You've got a lot of space to work with. There's a lot you can do, from smaller events up to larger events. There's huge flexibility. The way the rooms can join together gives us great flow sometimes. So that's fabulous. But I've worked here personally since 2009, so the more you're here, the less big it seems, if that makes sense.
No, I get that completely.
It doesn't seem huge to me now, even though it is a big building.
Yeah. And from a technical production point of view, you know, you're a partner, but
yeah.
I bet the amount of time that you physically spend in here, you probably know every nook and cranny, you know where every plug socket is.
Mostly, you'd like to think that, and yes, we do. Obviously, we have a huge working knowledge of the venue, but there are still surprises. There's still things you find, even after all these, you go, oh, I didn't know that was there.
Yeah.
Which is part of the charm of the old place, I think.
And I suppose when we look at the technical production aspect of it, which is what you deal with, and you support clients here week in, week out for many years on that. It's important to stress, I suppose, first of all, that for those who haven't been to this venue, just I suppose what the opportunities are from a technical production point of view, because a lot of hotels, they'll have a function suite or some sort of big suite you can have.
Yeah.
This is very unique as a hotel space in terms of that big main room they've got, as well as all the other spaces. Yeah,
that's right, James. You can kind of parcel the hotel off and make it into sort of multiple venues, even because of the size of it. So there are 3 really large. You were saying like a hotel will have a main event suite. This has 3. So with the Monarch suite, which is at the far end of the hotel and can become kind of self-contained. So that has its own foyer, its own entrance, and that's a huge space. 2,000 people theatre style. It's a big old beast. You can do some fantastic production in there. There's rigging across the whole of the ceiling, unistrut. There's an amazing load-in where it's almost like a secret door. The whole wall kind of opens out, and there's a cargo bay loading door. You can run your truck straight up to and straight into the room, which is fantastic from a production point of view. That's
it's like it's an arena load-in, isn't it?
Yeah, no lifts, no stairs, fantastic. So straight on in, like you say, arena load-in. So the Monarch suite, brilliant. But then also you've got the King suite and the Palace suite, which are further down into the main body of the hotel. Again, they have great access. The King suite has, similar to the Monarch, another load-in straight off the road with a straight-in loading bay. The Palace is just through a a goods access, but again, no lifts, no stairs. And both those rooms are also, in any other venue, would be considered a large space. So yeah, we could have a dinner for 1,000 in the Monarch, a dinner for 400 in the Kings, and a dinner for 700 in the Palace, all going on at the same time.
How when you've got a venue like this, and I suppose it being in a fortunate position where you're the preferred supplier here, and you're very much on site.
Yep.
From a staffing point of view, how does that work? Do you work with a lot of freelance network, or because of the amount of business that must be coming through the hotel event wise, is there a case where you've got sort of almost like a permanent base of technicians that are here and operating here?
Yeah, it's a bit of both, James. It's a good question. Obviously, the way the events industry works is very much peaks and troughs. So obviously school holiday times tend to be a bit quieter on the corporate side, because people aren't going to organise their big sales conference when everyone's, in Marbella or off with the kids. So, we tend to get peaks during spring and autumn mainly. So those are really busy times, so early in winter as well. In fact, it used to be you'd get the more downtime than you do. The downtime is shrinking every year, which is great. But, you can't carry enough staff to cover
of course,
all the requirements that you have during the busy times, during the quiet times. So freelancers are a big part of what we do. We have a very trusted team of freelancers, so everyone's vetted and checked to have the appropriate insurances, and most of them are guys we've known for years, to be honest. So we know they're good guys. They're people who've either worked with us before or we've worked with for many years, and we know they're good, we know they're qualified, they get the job done. And then we have our own team of technicians. So there are two of us based here, client side, dealing with the hotel and the hotel's clients and the events here, myself and my colleague David Morgan. And then we have a team of technicians who are in the warehouse over at the NEC, who we use to support the events, either as show techs or maybe running smaller things that only need a couple of guys to look after a smaller meeting for 80 people, say, that kind of thing.
Sure.
So it's a blend.
Yeah. And having that, going back to sort of your role in working with the venue and with the team here at the Hilton, I guess, in that respect, that's allowing you the opportunity to really work with clients alongside the hotel at an earlier stage of the whole process, isn't it? That's one benefit of having, I guess, an on-site preferred partner, is that you're understanding not just of the technical aspects, but also of the other hotel operations and how that could affect events. Yeah,
that's a great point. And I think all production companies, anyone working in AV or technical production, would say the earlier you get us involved in the process, the better. Quite often, as you say, you're brought in later, the venue's already decided, the room's already decided, and you're given a bit of a fait accompli. We want to do this in here, and you're like, okay, how am I going to make that work? And then you're working around trying to figure out a solution. Because we're here on site and we're working so closely with the hotel, we can be involved in that initial conversation alongside the hotel and be sort of helping the client make the right choice about which space is going to work best for them, how that might be orientated, how it might be set up.
Yeah.
And because, like you say, we know how the hotel works, they know how we work, it's a seamless service, and that can provide a great solution for the client.
I said at the top that we are here celebrating the 50th anniversary of the hotel.
I know, I can't believe it.
And I guess, I looked at some photos, I did a bit of Googling and looked at some photos, and in terms of the exterior, the sort of the facade, if you will, the fundamentals of the building haven't changed dramatically as such, but I would say that that's probably the complete polar opposite when it comes to the internals and the upgrades, even over the last sort of 5-6 years, a decade. To be operational for 50 years, the art of technical production 50 years ago will have changed significantly to today. How involved are Protec as an ongoing relationship and conversation with the venue about upgrades, about changes to things, simple things that we take for granted now, about just Wi-Fi and internet connectivity that events really demand now?
Yeah, very involved. I think one of the key roles of being a partner in that way, an on-site supplier, is that you are part of the team with the hotel. So we're a resource for them to tap into. So whenever they have any kind of questions, or they're thinking about even just buying some new infrastructure for the hotel, new screens, or, like you say, upgrading the Wi-Fi, then yes, we're very much part of that conversation. We meet the potential suppliers, walk around the rooms, make our suggestions, tell them what's needed. We'll test the solutions, look into what they just work alongside the hotel to make sure they're getting the right products, and that things are moving forward in the right way for the client's events going forward.
Interesting. You mentioned something there as simple as sort of TVs nowadays, and we kind of take for granted sometimes when we walk into spaces and hotels that there's TVs in the wall. They almost become part of the interior design process now, because there's so much you can do with them, isn't there? You could, from a branding, from a communications point of view, but that's something that I've fallen foul of doing technical production on site, is that not all TVs are made equally. No. And that's where the sort of your experience can come into it in terms of recommending, even from brand to brand. Some of them are easier to put branding on via USB sticks. Some are easier to network with network cables.
Exactly. So, smart TVs now you can just send your content straight to them, plug in a USB, nice and easy. Older models, maybe not. You're still getting to the situation where you need to run a laptop into it from a HDMI cable. God forbid VGA.
We still see them. I still see.
Occasionally.
You do walk into some hotels now, and they still have the old patch panel on the wall with a couple of RCAs and a VGA connector, and say, "Oh no, it's worked for years."
Thing of beauty, James.
It's worked for years. Why would it not? Why would it not work for you? Well,
Indeed,
I don't have a laptop from sort of 1998 running Windows 95.
Indeed, and I think you're absolutely right. Ultimately, the technology is something, I think, as you say, people just take for granted. It's part of the furniture you walk past. It's our job to make sure that is integrating seamlessly and smoothly with what the hotel are offering and what the clients are trying to do, whether that be something that's built into the hotel or more often than not, as many of the rooms are a blank canvas, things we're bringing in on a bespoke basis every time. And that's the challenge. Every event is different, so there isn't really kind of a cookie cutter approach, as you well know yourself. I mean, things can be similar, but they're always slightly different. No two events are exactly the same. So it's kind of talking to the client, getting that opportunity to meet with them and be part of the conversation early in the process, which the hotel are great at doing, and allows us to have that interface with the client, which means we can then add value by making suggestions, thinking about possible solutions. By the time the event comes around, we're in great shape, and the client has got the best possible solution for their budget. Yeah,
that said, in terms of the bespoke aspect, and they're never quite the same, I would guess that because of the relationship with the hotel, that inevitably, when you anybody who's built an event will know that the first time you work in a space is always a challenge, because you're learning its idiosyncrasies. But when you've worked in that space on multiple occasions, that out gets easier and smoother, every time. And I guess
we're like a finely oiled machine, James.
And I guess that some of the spaces in the venue, there is almost like a baseline of what you may put in there. If somebody says, look, we're using this space as a conference, you'll go, right, so we need this particular setup.
Yes and no, I think. You're absolutely right. We know what works, and you do tend to do, we go that end with the set, and 2 screens works best there, and because the ceiling height's a bit different there, we can't do that. You know those parameters, so you know what can and can't be done, and you know what usually works. But I think it's sometimes good to break the mould. We've done events recently where we've configured the rooms in ways we've never done before, which, after I've been here since 2009, you'd think that's surprising, but all it can take sometimes is a client pushing for something different, going, no, actually I want it to be like this. Then you have to kind of step back and you think about it, and because you've got the knowledge of the room and what can work and not, you can come up with a solution.
That's interesting.
What I don't ever want to do is just kind of push a client into, it's A, B or C. You have that because that's what works, and it's a one size fits all. You can say this normally works in here, and this is what we've done in the past, and this fits really well, and this will suit your needs. But if you want something else,
it's a good point, because you never want to be caught in that trap of being that company that says, well, this is how we do it.
Exactly. I don't want to be prescriptive. I never want to be prescriptive, or computer says no. Give the benefit of experience, and as you say, absolutely, you do know what works, and certain orientations are going to be better than others, and we will always give the client the benefit of that and show them previous events and draw plans for them. It's part of the service, so we will always draw CAD plans and size everything out. It's a great tool. The guys are great at it. But it's always nice to be challenged. I get quite excited if a client goes, no, I don't want that. What we'd like is, the presenter to be able to be right in the middle of the audience, maybe move from that end to that end, and we want the band to be over there, not over there. And okay, right, how are we going to make that work? And then that gets that's when the creative juices start flowing.
And absolutely. And one thing that I'm always conscious of is we live in a great world now where, from a production point of view, because you can go on something like YouTube and see what they're doing at Coachella last week from a production point of view, and see what was happening on the main stage there. And more so than ever, event organisers at any level are afforded the luxury in some respects of being able to take influence from huge events and actually try and replicate them to an extent in smaller events because of the technology that's available now, because of the ability to suspend sound and light, or put up an LED screen that 15 years ago they couldn't have contemplated because of the power consumption and the cost of it. We're in a really sort of creative space now, aren't we, where people can really look at a space and go, can we do this?
Absolutely, yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, like the advent of LED wall has been the affordability coming into the standard event arena. Yeah, things that you looked at on the Brits Awards or whatever, or the Oscars like 5 years ago, and think, oh, I only dream of that, it's only on TV. Yeah, a lot of events we're doing now are LED wall, which again gives you, because you don't need projection distance. Yeah, you can break it up. You can have different shapes. You can have different environments. So people might not want a big presentation heavy event. They might want something a bit more like what we're doing right now. People sitting and having a chat and the audience getting involved, something that's a bit more fireside chat, that kind of thing. Yeah. You can support that quite easily with different staging, blocks of LED, however you want it to be.
It is, and I've said this regularly, both on the podcast and at events, is that what we're doing right now, if there was an audience sat in front of us, that would be a fireside chat or a seminar session at a conference. Yeah. The fact that there's no audience here, and we're putting out afterwards, it becomes a podcast or a webinar. That's a word that's not really used a lot anymore, is it? You remember that pre-COVID? Well, we're going to do a webinar. Now it's just let's record some content and put it out digitally. But those areas of grade in terms of...
It's all meshed and intertwined, hasn't it? I remember through the pandemic as well, everything obviously was virtual. So there was the whole virtual conferencing became huge. And everyone was like, well, we're never going to go back to live events. This is it now, where everyone's just going to do virtual conferences. Why would they do live events? Well, they do live events because people like to get together. Much as it's really useful to be able to talk to somebody over a Teams call or a Zoom call or whatever it might be. And there probably isn't any need anymore to drive from Manchester to London to sit in a boardroom and have a 2-hour meeting about planning an event. You can do that over Teams, and that's great. That's saving everybody time. That's making everybody more efficient. When it comes to the actual event, people still want to engage and talk face to face. We're human beings.
Yeah, well, I said this as during that period as well, that you cannot replicate that feeling of the lights going down in a room,
the theatre,
and that 5 or 6 seconds before that intro music kicks in, and suddenly the screen explodes on stage with an intro video.
The adrenaline starts,
and the first track sort of kicks in, and you feel the bass in your chest. You can't replicate that through a digital medium. You have to be in that room to experience those things. It's sensory.
It is, and people love it. I mean, that's why I'm in events, really. I love that kind of thing, theatre, music, gigs. That's what it's all about. Yeah. So I think that's true for a lot of people who work in the events industry and in production in particular. So yes, and all these elements tie in. So that the stuff that happened during the pandemic, the virtual stuff, didn't go away. We still do it for smaller meetings, and you integrate that into your live events as well. So you can get your speaker from Hong Kong to put him into the event and do a perfectly fine presentation and have a Q&A with people in the room without having to fly over. Or if they want to fly over, they can fly over. But you've got options, we've got flexibility, we've got integration. So I think the events industry has never been in a stronger place. We've got so many tools. It's all come together and in a really, really powerful way, I think.
And it goes back to what we were saying, I suppose, at the early part of today's conversation about the sort of that scalability of different events, is that, time was when if you wanted to dial somebody in remotely on a screen, that would be only for the events with the biggest budget in the biggest room with the huge screens.
Absolute mission, yeah.
And now you could probably do a conference here for 50 people, for 50 senior execs, and with a simple, projector screen and a simple AV setup, you bring a laptop in, patch it in, put the guy on Zoom or Teams or whatever. It's actually it's pretty easy to do, isn't it?
With a laptop and a small camera. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and wind that back 10, 15 years, you'd have to get like a satellite truck to do a sat link to Hong Kong, wherever it would be insane. Yes, so the way things have moved and the advent of technology has been fantastic. And it hasn't actually been to the detriment of live events at all. It's just given live events more tools. It's just given us more integration. It's given us more options.
It's enhanced them completely, hasn't
exactly.
it? It's given more, I suppose, if you like. I love a ridiculous analogy on the podcast. Regular viewers, but like you've got your main menu, and all it's done is increase the side orders.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Right, yeah,
well, you've got your conference, you've got your main, keynote speaker, or you've got your trade show, but would you like any of these extra sides?
Exactly.
We've got all these other amazing options now that we can deploy.
That's right. And the things we always used to have are still there. You still have chips. There's always chips.
yeah.
So we're sort of stage decks and PA.
And I suppose very apt. We're sat in this beautiful. Is it Brightsmith?
Brightsmith on the water. Yes.
We're in the Brightsmith sort of bar and restaurant, and we have got a bit of B-roll footage that we're going to take today to sort of give you a bit of context as to where we are sort of located. We've got the lake at the NEC behind us. That we can see just out the window, and it really is. I wouldn't say opulent, but it's got a certain kind of almost sort of Gatsby vibe to it.
I'd say
here.
so. Yes, there is definitely kind of sort of an Art Deco-ish kind of old-fashioned opulence.
I can imagine a jazz quartet with a double bass in the corner,
but twinned in with kind of some modern cool as well.
Yeah,
and on a sunny day like this, looking out over the lake and the trees with the veranda there with the furniture on, it's could almost be on holiday, James. Almost.
Before we sort of start thinking about wrapping up today, I'm sort of keen to sort of dive into the excitement side of things. Working somewhere like this, some people may be thinking, oh well, could it get quite sort of a bit sort of same venue every week, same place every week? Just how different is it week to week, and with the different level of events coming in, and how much does that contribute to still staying enthused about working in the industry?
There is a great amount of variety. Just by the fact the venue can cater for events for 30 people or events for 1,500 people, you've got huge scope. So you can do exhibitions, award dinners, conferences, small meetings, product launches, roadshows, all sorts of things, and all sorts of different clients from different industries wanting to promote themselves or do whatever there is they're doing in different ways. I think add to that as well, it's the team here is a huge part of it as well. One of the things that I think the good old Birmingham Met does really, really well is that the people here are the heart of this hotel. And a lot of these people have been here for a long time. Everyone who comes in is of a very similar mindset. It really is like a big family, and the people here go above and beyond for the clients. And as being part of that and feeling part of that, that's really valuable as well. You want to come into work and you want to do your best because, I love these people and I love this place. So that's what it's about.
What sort of just popped into my head there is there are hotels with event spaces.
There are.
And then there are event spaces with hotels.
There are.
And I would see this as an event space with a hotel. The hotel is magnificent.
The hotel's lovely. But
this is... don't be confused again. Don't be misled. Anybody who thinks, oh well, it's a hotel with event space, I want to be looking at that. This is as good and as flexible as any what you would call dedicated event space. I'm not going to name names, but
hugely.
Can you get what I'm saying there?
I absolutely get what you're saying. Events is the heart of this place. This is what drives it. It's an event hotel. It's an event venue. Yeah, it's got the big spaces. We've talked about the events that happen here. The hotel's fabulous, and the hotel's a big part of it, but it just means you've got your catering and your level of service and your bedrooms and everything on site. So what you've got here is everything all in one place. So you've got your venue space, you've got your bedrooms, you've got your food, you've got your audio visual and production. We've got other fantastic partners who can do theming and dressing and entertainment, bands, all that kind of thing. You name it, it's all here and it's all under one roof.
Do you ever do anything outdoors, or is it exclusively indoors here?
We have done outside stuff. The car park at the front often gets commandeered to be various things. So food stalls out there, circus tents, trucks where the side comes down and there's exhibitions inside it. So yes, there is that space that can be used.
I'm thinking, but from because I'm looking.
You're looking at the green space.
I'm looking at this amazing sort of new green space that my attention was drawn to this morning.
The glamping.
There are new glamping pods here at the hotel, which are just across the lake, a short walk from the main building of the hotel, and they are absolutely stunning. They've got balconies, sort of verandas that go onto the lake, and I'm just wondering, is that going to be used as a space? Can you see yourself sort of putting production over there?
Well, potentially, yeah. Nothing is off the table, James. I'd love to give it a go, and I think what that does, the whole NEC site is all part of the same organism.
Yeah.
So the Hilton Birmingham Metropole is a big part of the NEC here, and they all feed into each other. So the NEC round the lake here is really nice now. Like I say, you're looking out there with the sunshine and the glamping pods and the little decking and the veranda. It is a little bit like being on holiday. You could be in a glamorous resort rather than just outside of Birmingham.
In the middle of the NEC,
That's right. Who'd have thunk?
Well, exactly, because, again, a lot of people picture, it's very sort of business, it's, concrete, dare I say, it's all very sort of manufactured.
It isn't, it really isn't.
And people forget sort of what there are a lot of green spaces integrated into the NEC sort of footprint.
And it's lovely in the summer for a lunch break. A lot of the people here will take a walk around the lake and, go sit out on a bench and have a sandwich and get a bit of sunshine and fresh air. It's lovely. It's a really nice thing to be able to do. It's a nice environment for people holding their events coming here to be in. Walk across the resorts world,
Yeah.
There are bars and casinos and escape rooms and bowling and all sorts of stuff over there, cinema. Yeah. So there's plenty of activities. There's the Bear Grylls over the far side of the NEC.
Bear Grylls,
Bear Grylls experience.
The Bear Grylls experience.
Jump yourself out of a helicopter or go in a shark tank, that kind of thing. You got it?
Very much so. Right? Yeah, very much so.
Who wouldn't?
Again, this is a random question before we wrap up today, Simon. But we are just under sort of 50 days from the World Cup, and Simon and I were talking just off air before we started about our various football teams. Simon's in a fortunate position that his team, Coventry, have just gone back up to the Premier League. Congratulations to them.
Thanks, James.
But one thing that a lot of event organisers fall foul of is not checking major football fixtures. I've had it 2 or 3 times with awards dinners where they've realised 1 week before the event that England are playing right in the middle of their awards. I remember having to stop an awards ceremony once because England had gone to penalties against Colombia and nobody was watching the awards anymore. You could all see them with the phones glowing up at their faces. And so we just decided to stop it.
Put it on the big screen.
It's a random one. Have you already spoken to people about having to integrate any elements of the World Cup into events this year?
Yes, James, yes, we have. We've already had people saying that, during our event there is going to be England playing, so can you put some TVs in the room for people to watch the football?
Yeah, and of course they're late fixtures this year. I think England are playing at sort of 9-10 o'clock, and obviously we've got Scotland there as well. Let's not forget that Scotland have made it there. And it might seem a random thing to ask, but from a production point of view, these are important questions, because if you don't address them and know about them in advance and look to integrate something in there, you will inevitably lose some of your attendees.
Yeah, and make it part of your event, if that's what I would say. So what we're looking at doing is putting the TVs into the kind of chill out area of the event. So if people want to dance and be with the band and stuff, they can go and do that. And if people want to go and get a drink and watch the football, they can do that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that will pan out. I'm sure.
It'll be what it'll be.
There will inevitably be people falling foul in these, and maybe if you've been watching or listening to this today, you've maybe gone, yes, maybe I just need to check when the fixtures are. Could it affect me? And if you haven't looked at them, look at them. That's my advice from today.
It's good advice.
We are in the beautiful surroundings of the Hilton Birmingham Metropole today, recording the Event Industry News podcast as part of the 50th anniversary celebrations for this amazing venue right in the heart of England, adjacent to the NEC, of course. And I've been joined on the podcast today by Simon Jelley, the National Sales and Account Manager for Protec, who are preferred AV and technical production suppliers here at the hotel and have worked alongside them for many, many years. Simon, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. Thanks for joining the podcast.
Thank you, James.